Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel channel for foodies. I'm Brent Peterson. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to do a pastry crawl, and I've done pastry crawls in different cities before, but this one's going to be different because we're going to focus on one singular pastry, the famous pastel de nata, which everyone who comes to Lisbon, everyone who comes to Portugal wants to try. So we're going to try several different ones and see how they stack up. And we're going to do this mostly in Lisbon, but I thought we'd start today in Pinhel Novo. This is a town not too far from where we live, and it's on our way to Lisbon. And I wanted to stop by this pasteleria because it's one of my favorite for pastel de nata. It's called Mafaria, and it's in Pinhel Novo. They're famous for their pastel de nata. So what they're known for, one of the things that they're known for, is they make what's called a grande pastel de nata. And you'll see later today when I have regular pastel de natas, this one's probably like 20–25% bigger. So it's a larger format pastel de nata. But just because it's bigger doesn't mean it's better. These guys do a great job with the pastel de nata. So let's give it a try. So you can hear the crunch when I go into that. And that's the first thing you want to look for, is a really flaky crust. And then on the inside, you want to see the custard filling being like almost runny. So what this is made of, you can see it's crumbling. It's so flaky, it's like crumbling off of here. This is an egg tart, so it's egg, sugar, a little bit of vanilla usually, and then other secret ingredients. And then it's baked in the oven until it gets caramelized on the top like that. And you add a sprinkling of cinnamon on there. These guys, they make a delicious pastel de nata. I usually don't get the big one, I usually get the normal sized one, but I wanted to show you the big one because this is what they're famous for. Great spot. If you can make it out here, it's just a train trip, less than an hour from Lisbon. And there's a few other things to see in Pinhel Novo. It's not really a tourist attraction type city, but this place has some of the best pastel de natas in all of Portugal, in my opinion. So it's definitely worth a stop on our little pastel de nata crawl today, and a great way to start the day. All right, so we made it out to Belém, the birthplace of the pastel de nata. Actually, it was born right behind me in the Jeronimos monastery. No one is sure exactly when they started making this, but obviously it was after the Age of Discoveries, when sugar and vanilla became more common in Portugal. So anyway, what happened was, I mean, first of all, look at the size of this church behind me. What was going on back in the day in Portugal was some of the churches, in order to make money, would make different kinds of sweets. They called them convento sweets. And they would make them to sell to the local community in order to make money. They made a pastel, something called the pastel de nata, pastel de Belém here. As you can tell from behind me, probably didn't need to raise money by selling tarts. I mean, churches like this, monasteries like this, that were huge, extravagant demonstrations of the royal wealth, the church's wealth, the royal ego, they were well funded. But anyway, they were still making these little tarts. What ended up happening was, in the 1830s, Portugal had a war. And when the new ruling class came in, they privatized and abolished most of the churches and monasteries throughout the country. Placed behind me, this was supposed to become a school for underprivileged children. Never really happened, and the place stood vacant and fell into decline. But what did happen was, and this was true in a lot of places throughout Portugal, is the monks who were here sold the recipe to a nearby bakery. In this case, Pastéis de Belém, which is right there, like 2-minute walk from here. Sold the recipe, and then they started making these little tarts, the pastel de nata. They've been doing it for almost 200 years now with the same family. So you can go over there and you can get a pastel de nata. It's called Pastel de Belém there. In fact, this is the only place in the world where they can call it a Pastel de Belém, because everyone else has to call it Pastel de Nata, because they don't make it in Belém in that particular pasteleria. All right, so what did we do today? You have two choices when you go to Pastéis de Belém. You can stand in line and wait for a table and sit down. And I would recommend doing that. It may take a little bit longer, or it may not, depending on the lines. You may have to wait in line a little while. And we've done it before. We've sat in there. It's gorgeous. But today the line was long. I didn't really feel like waiting too long, so I went to the takeout counter. In that case, it was like a 5-minute wait, less. And you just order it and you can take it to go. And they'll even box it up for you. They also give you, I just got one, but they also give you these little packets of powdered sugar and cinnamon. And I topped mine with a little powdered sugar and cinnamon. So let's have a try of the OG Pastel de Nata, Pastel de Belém. Man. Their crust is so crispy and so caramelized on the bottom, almost to the point of being chewy. So delicious. Still warm out of the oven. Beautiful egg custard on the inside. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. Gorgeous. Frankly, I kind of avoided this place when we first came to Portugal. Years ago when I first came here, didn't go there. I thought it was a tourist trap. And so I didn't go there until we'd actually been living here for a little while. And it turns out this place makes great pastel de natas. Really, really tasty. Some of the best. So it's worth making a trip for two reasons. One, pastel de natas, Pastéis de Belém, really, really tasty. Second of all, it's just a gorgeous setting in order to do it. And you're probably, when you come to Belém, you're probably going to go here anyway. So you're going to go to the church. I recommend it highly. Vasco da Gama is interred here. The church is stunning on the inside. You can also pay to see the cloisters. There we're seeing as well. And then there's other stuff to see in Belém. There's the Belém Tower, and there's the Monument to the Age of Discoveries. You can also get boat tours here on the Tagish. Boat tours are really cool. You go sailing right under the 25th of April bridge. So this is a place you want to come to. Belém is very touristy, but very much worth it. It's not super easy to get here. You can take the 15E tram. That's probably the best way. But there's no subway. There's no metro stop out here. And it's quite a distance from downtown. You can't walk here. I walked out here once. It is a long, hot, not shady walk. So that's not an idea that you want to do. Learn from my mistake. But definitely come to Belém. It's worth a minimum of half a day, maybe a full day. Coach Museum's also out here. A lot of people go to see that. All right, so I'm going to finish my Pastéis de Belém and head back into the city for some more pastel de natas. What do you say? Let's go. We made it to the Chiaro neighborhood, to Mantigaria. This is probably the second most famous pasteleria for pastel de nata in Lisbon after Pastéis de Belém. And truth be told, I've also avoided this place. I have been to, at this point, I've been to Pastéis de Belém many times. I've never been to this particular pasteleria, and kind of for the same reason. it seemed like it was overhyped to me. So, you know, that was just me. We'll see how their pastel de nata is, though. I gotta say, before I try it, though, inside, the place is super cool. Like, it's tiny. It's basically a galley kitchen, and then they've got a skinny little place if you want to eat inside. You can do that, but it's nice outside, so we came outside. And you can watch them. They're just behind plexiglass, doing the thing. They're making the cream, they're filling the shells, and they're baking them off. And you can watch them right there within, 3 feet of you. Anyway, let's give the pastel de nata a try. The custard is warm, really rich, delicious, creamy, yum. The crust is crunchy. To me, it's a little more oily than I would like, but still quite delicious. So if you're coming to Chiato, this would be a good place to get a pastel de nata. They're also in the time out market. So if you don't want to come all the way up here, you're probably coming to Chiato if you're coming to Lisbon. But if you find yourself in the time out market, they've got an outpost there. I saw when we were out in Belém, I saw they have a place out there as well. This one, I think, is the original, and it's the most characteristic. So this would be my place to come to if you want that real experience. But they've opened a few shops around here in Lisbon, so there's different places for you to check out when you come here. And Chiato is just an amazing neighborhood. At some point, I'll do a video on all the great places to go in Chiato, because I have several places that I really love here. There's also several famous tourist spots like A Brasileria and stuff like that. But anyway, there we go, Chiato. Got a couple more places to check out, and that'll be it for our first part of our pastel de nata crawl here in Lisbon. So our next stop is Aloma Pasteleria here in Campo de Ourique neighborhood, and this place has been around for 80 years now, and it is just absolutely adorable inside. It's just a little bar, a couple of tables, and they're cranking out their pastel de natas right here. So let's give it a try, see how it stacks up. That crust is so crispy. That's the thing here in Campo de Ourique. You're pretty much right in the flight path. So got planes going over every 2 minutes here in this neighborhood. But anyway, this pastel de nata, it is, the crust is so flaky and crispy. It's just, it's toasted. It's more toasted than other ones that I've had. It has a butteriness to it. I wonder if they're putting butter in the bottom of the pan when they bake it instead of oil. But anyway, that's really good. As far as the filling goes, the custard filling, it's tasty. I would say it's maybe a little fluffier than some of the other ones that I've had. So it's really nice, and they're bringing them out every few minutes. Even we're in the late afternoon here, and they're still cranking them out, so you can still get fresh ones direct out of the oven. Put a little cinnamon on top. Perfect, perfect little treat for a late afternoon here in Lisbon. We're at Alcoa Pasteleria in Chiato. This place is known for having pastries with funny names like Nun's Belly, but they're also known for having a really nice pastel de nata. So that's what I got. It's a pastel de nata video. And I got a little canela, which is cinnamon, and I'll give it a try. So that might be one of the best crusts that I've had. Really crispy, not oily. Maybe could be a little bit lighter, but still really nice and tasty. And then the custard filling, really good. Nice, nice custard filling in there. Tasty. All right, it is hot today, so what I asked for was a cafe con gelo. That means coffee with ice. And she asked me, can I just give you an espresso with a glass of ice instead of an iced coffee? I said, sure, that's fine. So, gonna make my own. Straight in. Nice coffee. Wow, that's really good. Frankly, I wasn't expecting a lot, but pleasantly surprised. I'm going to just scoop out a little bit of this custard and try it by itself. Sometimes the crust disguises the flavor of the custard too much, but there, by just scooping it out, you can get a real feel for how good the custard is. And that's a nice custard. So, that'll do it for today's video. But, you know, we've got 2 videos now of Pastel de Nata crawl here in Lisbon and nearby areas. So surely there's a place that you can find if you come to Lisbon that you'll enjoy. There's a lot of good ones. And I think all these places that I've gone to, including the vegan one that I had in the last episode, are all really, really quality places. So I don't think you can lose by going to any one of them. If you like this kind of stuff, food and travel, and who doesn't like those, subscribe to my channel, Destination Eat Drink. Thanks for watching, and see you down the road. See, that's what makes their pastel de nata here at Capri so good. Yeah, it's early, but, you know, who cares? So that's nice. So welcome back to Destination Eat Drink, the travel channel for foodies. Glad to have you. We're doing another video on pastel de nata. Last week, we visited some of the most famous pastelerias for pastel de nata, including Pastiche de Belém. This week, it's going to be some lesser-known pastelerias. They're probably well known in their neighborhoods, but not really as well known to tourists, and I'm going to share those with you today. They'll all be in Lisbon, with the exception of where we're starting today. We're starting at Capri, which is a pasteleria here in our city of Setúbal. It's about 40 minutes south of Lisbon. And this is one of my favorite pastelerias in our town. They've got good pastel de nata. The reason I usually come here is I get a mini pastel de nata. You can see here, I didn't get a mini today because they're sold out of them, unfortunately. But mini pastel de nata, I don't know, maybe a third the size of this. And I read an article in Eater, which is a really good resource if you like traveling and eating. It'll tell you interesting facts and stuff. It's a good site, I like it. But they wrote an article about pastel de nata in Lisbon, and one of the things that they said was how bogus the mini pastel de nata was. And I could not disagree more wholeheartedly. I like the mini pastel de nata. I've talked about this before, but really my favorite part of the pastel de nata is the crust. And so imagine when you get a mini pastel de nata, you get more crust to custard ratio. So that's why I like it. And I like the crust that you get here. So that's why I usually get the mini pastel de nata. Didn't have it today, but that's fine. The other thing that they said that I thought was really interesting was they suggested that when you go to Lisbon, you get a little glass of port with your pastel de nata. And I hadn't considered that before, although I've had port for breakfast with pastry when we were up in Porto. You can check out that video if you want to see that. Muscatel is very similar to port. It's a fortified sweet wine. It's made here in the Setúbal region. So it's very similar to port, but it's made down here. I like it a lot, and so instead of getting a port, I got a little muscatel to go with my pastel de nata. Yeah, it's early, but you know, who cares? So that's nice. So let's try the pastel de nata. See, that's what makes their pastel de nata here at Capri so good. Is you get layers and layers and layers of flaky crust in there, so when you bite into it, it just crunch through all those layers. You got a nice custard filling, not straight out of the oven, but still tasty custard in that with our muscatel. That is tasty. Goes together really nicely. All right. Who knows, by the end of the day I might be asleep, but I'm not going to continually be drinking muscatel. We'll get some coffee too to get us jonesing and woken up for some more pastel de nata today. But this is a good start to our little pastel de nata crawl. This is Pasteleria Santo Antonio, and this bakery always has a special place in my heart because this is the very first place in Lisbon years ago that I tasted my first pastel de nata in Portugal. A tour guide brought us here. We hired her to do a private tour with us, and she brought us here, and I was obviously very pleased with my pastel de nata. It's called Pasteleria Santo Antonio because we're not far from the Church of St. Anthony. And a couple of things to clear up about St. Anthony when you come here. First of all, you should go to the church. It's really interesting. There's a big statue of St. Anthony out front. A lot of people think St. Anthony is from Italy because he's commonly known as St. Anthony of Padua, which is a city in Italy and a place where he did a lot of his work. But actually he was born here in Lisbon, and the place where he was born is where the church was eventually constructed, right over his the house where he was born. So St. Anthony is a big deal here in Lisbon. They also have a St. Anthony festival every summer here in Lisbon, and that leads to the second thing about St. Anthony that you should know, which is that a lot of people think he's the patron saint of Lisbon. He's not. He's very revered here, but he's not the patron saint of Lisbon. So anyway, this place is very well respected when it comes to pastel de nata. A few years ago it won Best Pastel de Nata in Lisbon. Normally it's crowded, but we're here early enough that it's not too crowded. In fact, we were the only people up here. A little family just came upstairs. But they crank out a lot of pastel de natas here, and it's going to be a hot day in Lisbon, so I got a cafe con gelo, which just means an iced coffee. That's going to do the trick. All right, so let's try their pastel de nata. That's why I love the pastel de natas here. They have the most amazing flaky crust here. Crispy, never gummy, perfect. And then of course you have the nice custard filling, and you can see it's on the verge of being runny, which is exactly what you want. So this one is still warm. It's not right out of the oven. They didn't have a batch that was coming right out of the oven, and I wanted to get one, and you know, we got places to be today. So anyway, this is a great place to come. If you're coming to Lisbon, you're probably going to go to the St. Anthony Church. The Cathedral of Lisbon is also close by. A lot of tourists go there as well, and this isn't far from that. So this is a good spot to come to get a pastel de nata. It's not one of the top places that you read about. It's when you read about pastel de natas in Lisbon, but still, it is a very well-respected bakery and a place you should definitely come when you're in Lisbon. This is the Roman Theatre Museum of Lisbon. This place used to be on top of where I'm standing right now, a 5-story building. But in the 20th century, they discovered, or maybe again realized, there were Roman ruins under here. Look, Lisbon was a Roman city, and for hundreds of years. And probably wherever you drop a shovel, you're going to find Roman ruins. But they found this and discovered that it was a theater, a little amphitheater. So demolished the building and excavated what you see behind me, which is an interesting Roman theater. And this is right around the corner from Pasteleria Santo Antonio. So don't miss this, because it's a place you could easily, you know, not see, not be aware of, because it's not really all that well known. There's no admission. There's no one standing here taking tickets. It's just a place that you can walk into and look around. But it's fascinating to really get an idea of what Lisbon was like when it was a Roman city 2,000 years ago or so. You can imagine people sitting here, you know, watching some kind of performance. So definitely a place that you want to see when you come to Lisbon and you get your pastel de nata, get a course of culture while you're walking to your next stop. All right, so we came all the way out to Pasteleria do Padeiro. We took the metro all the way out to Portinha. It's quite a distance out, almost to the end of the line. This is this neighborhood's the suburbs, man. Yeah, we're still in Lisbon, but this is a real neighborhood in Lisbon. You're not going to see a tourist out here, I guarantee it, pretty much. This place won Best Pastel de Nata in the entire city of Lisbon in 2022. So that's why I came all the way out here. Never been to this neighborhood before, and I'm going to try their pastel de nata, see how it stacks up. Crispy crust, really nice, buttery. Look how caramelized that is on the bottom. I would say not as flaky as Santo Antonio's, but still really good. I'd say maybe you need to get here earlier, or maybe wait till one comes out of the oven, because this one is not hot, it's not warm. But I can tell it's still a really good pastel de nata. She asked me if I wanted canela with it, and that means cinnamon. So she stuck a cinnamon shaker on the counter, put a little sprinkle of cinnamon. That's always the question when you get your pastel de nata. Do you want just plain, Do you want it with cinnamon? Do you want it with powdered sugar? Or do you want it with a little of both? Usually, if they have cinnamon, I'll get it with a little sprinkle of cinnamon. Sometimes I'll do both if I'm feeling crazy. This is an excellent pastel de nata. I can see why they won in 2022. Trying to stay hydrated today because it is hot in Lisbon and I'm eating a lot of eggs and sugar and cream. So we're going to try to keep going, see a couple more places if we can on our pastel de nata crawl today. So we're at our last stop of our second pastel de nata crawl. We actually wanted to make one more stop. We went up to Pasteleria de Nata. I wanted to try their pastel de nata because they won Best Pastel de Nata in Lisbon in 2021. But we got there closed, on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Oh well, we'll have to go back. So we're back in main part of Lisbon in the Chiado neighborhood, and this is called the Green Bean Cafe. In front they've got like an eco store with, you know, vegan belts and clothing and stuff like that. In the back they have a little grocery store, which is nice because they've got a bunch of bulk food, and then they've got stuff like soaps and shampoos and stuff that you can buy in bulk, so you're not getting them in plastic containers that you have to dispose of. They also have a cafe back there. And the food was pretty good. Had a salad and a nice little energy drink because boy, it needed to pick me up after walking around today. We were taking the mass transit all day long. Here comes a car. We were taking mass transit all day long, so save ourselves steps, but still, we ended up walking like 5.5 miles today. So it's a little tired. Got to the Green Bean Cafe, and the reason why I wanted to come here is because they have a vegan pastel de nata, and I thought this would be a good way to close out the video. So here it is. I put a little bit of, sprinkled a little cinnamon on top, and we'll give it a try. All right, so that is much more light and fluffy. Almost has the texture of like a cake, doughiness to it. The crust, this is the typical thing with vegan pastel de natas. I've had a few of them. You just can't, it's impossible to get the same kind of flakiness and crispiness that you get with a regular pastel de nata that has dairy in it. It just isn't possible. At least I haven't seen one yet. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it's different, and you know, you're not going to get that flakiness. But it's interesting. I kind of like the custard, the so-called custard that's in this. So there you go. If you like this video, I did another video on pastel de nata. I'll have a link in the description so you can check that out as well. I think overall, you know, you're going to want to go to Pastéis de Belém because they're the godfathers of pastel de nata in Lisbon. There's tons of other places to go to. The number one thing you want to look for is look for a place that says Fabrico Proprio. That means house-made pastel de nata, because there's plenty of places that are just churning them out in a factory and slinging them to all the different bakeries around town. But if they're making it in-house, Fabrico Proprio, you're much more likely to get a better product, and you're much more likely to get it fresh out of the oven, which is something that you definitely want to look for. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. See ya. This is the Mercado de Campo de Orique, and it's centrally located right in this neighborhood. Now, when you think about markets, you might think, oh, it's all fruit and veggies and meat and stuff like that. They have a little of that here, but it's definitely not the focus of this place. The focus of this place is more like, if you've been to Lisbon, you've been to the Time Out Market, or you've been to any big food hall in Europe, or even in the States now. It's more like that. But it's not as overwhelming as some of those places. Yeah, they've got a lot of vendors here, but it's a more chill atmosphere. So they've got little stalls of, you know, prepared food, restaurant stuff, wine bar, and then of course they had gelato. Now, thing to know in Portugal, when you get gelato, it's not gelato, like gelato that you'd think of from Italy, G-E-L-A-T-O. It's gelato, G-E-L-A-D-O. And gelato just means ice cream. Doesn't mean gelato like in Italy, which is a very different thing. Me being an ice cream and gelato snob, I could go into detail about that with you, but let's just say they're two different things. What I got was really interesting because I got two flavors from this artisanal gelato place. One is guava. Haven't seen guava served as a flavor here in Lisbon, but it's really nice. You can tell from the color here, it has kind of a matte color. It's not a bright purple or red color. It's more of a matte finish. That tells you that it's legit, or probably legit sorbetto. It wasn't made with coloring and fruit juice and you know, a lot of other stuff to make it look more eye-catching. So with this small, you get two flavors, and the second flavor I picked was figo, figs from the Algarve. So real figs, not fig juice, but actual figs. And that's really good. The fig flavor comes through. You know, when I used to make gelato, back when I lived in the States, I made a fig gelato with mascarpone cheese. And that was a nice combination. This is a sorbetto. So the difference being that a true gelato or true ice cream is made with cream or milk. Sorbet is a water base, so there's no dairy in it. And that's why in general, you want to make the fruit flavors a sorbet, and the nuts and the chocolate and things like the caramel flavors, you want to make those the ice cream or the gelato because they mix with the dairy nicely. And with the fruits, the water allows the fruit flavor to come through more vibrantly. So I like this. I like their take on the fig. It's tasty. So if you're coming here, if you're coming here and you're planning on shopping for your dinner for your Airbnb, you'll find some stuff. They have some fruit vendors here. They've got a bunch of cheese. They've got a wine vendor here, nuts and other kinds of treats of prepared foods. So that's nice. It looks like the fish market's pretty big. We're here on a Saturday, so it's not open, or maybe they closed early, I don't know. So that stuff is available, but really what you're coming here for is these restaurants. I saw there was a hamburger place. There was a sushi place. There's a lot of different kinds of food. So if you're maybe with a family or you're with a couple of people and you can't decide exactly what you want, this would be a good place to come because everyone can get their own little thing and enjoy their own thing. And then you have the seating here in the center. Everyone can come together, and you can even go and grab a bottle of wine or a glass of wine if that's what you're into. So nice little place here, not as big as some other markets that we have in Portugal, but still it's a good place to hang on a Saturday afternoon. This is the Aqueduct of Lisbon, and this is a marvel of engineering from about 300 years ago. But Portugal, Lisbon in particular, has always been very thirsty. It's been difficult to get water here. If you've ever been to Portugal, Lisbon, you might say to yourself, well, why not the river? They're right on the river. Why don't they just use that water to feed the city and keep them in water? Well, you could, except one problem. That's salt water. So it's not drinkable, and they couldn't use it. So even going back to Roman times 2,000 years ago, they were having difficulty getting water here. Romans finally built an aqueduct, and then over the next few hundred years, they used that. The Moors, they used the aqueduct as well. And then when the Reconquista happened, Lisbon was still very thirsty. And they talked about it for a long time, building a new aqueduct. And finally, in the early 1700s, 1730s, they started construction on this, the Lisbon Aqueduct. About 15 years later, it was ready to go. They started serving water to the thirsty residents of Lisbon. Even over the next 50 years, they expanded it until it was its size of 35 miles. 35 miles of aqueducts bringing spring water from the surrounding area all the way into Lisbon and into Sintra and all these other places. So it's quite a feat of engineering because, I mean, we're high up. I don't know if you can tell, but we're like 200 feet above street level. So it's kind of amazing to think that they were able to build this giant aqueduct like this 300 years ago. But they did it, and it served for, I don't know, 150, maybe more. But in the late 1800s, there was a reservoir built. They started using steam power to move water from that reservoir to the city of Lisbon, and this thing became not of any use, although it wasn't decommissioned until 1968. But here's the story I want to tell you about this aqueduct, because there was this guy, Diego Alves, about 100 years after they started construction of this aqueduct. He started working here in the 1830s, and he soon figured out something horrible and profitable. What happened was the roads weren't that great getting into Lisbon for the farmers, but this aqueduct was an easy way to bring their goods into the city of Lisbon. So what Alves would do is wait at the end of the day till the farmers had gone into Lisbon, sold all their produce, got a ton of cash in their pocket, and he would wait for them. And when they would come back after nightfall, he would knock them out, rob them, steal all their money, and throw their bodies over the side here. For a long time, people in Lisbon were like, why are there so many suicides going on in Lisbon? Why are so many people throwing themselves off the aqueduct? They weren't. They were being murdered by this guy, Alves. And he killed 70 people, they think, maybe even more. So he was a horrible serial killer in Portugal. They finally caught up with him. He later formed a gang, a street gang, and started breaking into homes and killing people and stealing stuff. Finally caught him, and they hung him. Story doesn't end there, though. This was at a time when the pseudoscience of the study of the skull, like looking at the shape of skulls to determine someone's perhaps criminal behavior or future criminal intent, was starting to happen. Of course, the Nazis would later use this to horrible results. But Alves happened to die by a hangman's noose around the time when they were talking about this. So they took his head off and preserved it. And it's not clear whether they ever studied it, but that was their intent. They were going to study his head and see if they could figure out anything about the criminal mind. But that head is still preserved in a museum in Lisbon over almost 200 years later. So, fascinating story. You can come up here, like I said, it's 35 miles of aqueduct. You can't walk the whole aqueduct, but cost was €4 to come up here, and you can walk about a kilometer, about 0.6 of a mile, and then you walk back. And you can also see the inside guts of the aqueduct, like where the water itself was being carried. It's fascinating. And of course, you've got these views. Right over my right shoulder, you can see the April 25th bridge. I'm looking at it, you can't see it on the camera, I'll get a shot of it. And then behind me is the Monsanto Park, which is a huge green space here in Lisbon. So not a lot of tourists. I mean, it's a beautiful day today. I haven't seen any, we saw some people leaving as we were coming in, haven't seen any other people. So it's a really cool place if you're interested in history, if you're interested in architecture, or if you're interested in just getting great views and having a nice walk here in Lisbon. This is a place called Ella Canela. I love the place name because it rhymes. Everything here in this part of Campo de Ourique is very close together. We're about a 2-minute walk away from the Mercado. So it's nice, centrally located. Just wish it was easier to get here, but you know, that's neither here nor there. This place is a cute little cafe and restaurant, and they had a crepe made with quinoa. So had to try that. Let's give this a little taste. Really fresh. And it has a cashew cream in it, fresh tomatoes, some pumpkin seeds on there. Really tasty. I like it. And we're right in the flight path too, so that's something to know. It's like every 2 minutes there's a plane going overhead. But I love my quinoa crepe. Karen and I are going to split this. We also got something you don't see a lot in Portugal, which is unsweetened iced tea. If you see iced tea here, and you don't see it all that often, a lot of times it's sweetened. A lot of times it's just Lipton out of a can, but this is definitely house-made iced tea. So that's a nice compliment to our crepe. We're going to enjoy here at Ella Canela. Good spot. So we're going to finish up our Campo de Ourique video at O Bitoque. If you travel around Portugal, you might see this word bitoque in various cafes, B-I-T-O-Q-U-E. And that's because it's a famous sandwich here in Portugal. It's a steak sandwich topped with an egg. And these guys named their cafe after that. But I didn't get a bitoque because, first of all, I'm not eating steak. Second of all, I saw that they had sopa de alentejo on the menu. So let me tell you what that is. This is a soup that has a water, olive oil, and salt broth. And then you put day-old bread in there, top it with some spices. In this case, it's parsley. And then you poach an egg inside it. So this is a very famous recipe in the Alentejo region, which is east of here in Lisbon. But of course, you'll see it on menus here in Lisbon. Let's give this a try. Salty, rich. I like the greens in there too. That's yummy. Normally with my sopa de alentejo, I like a crustier bread, but that's still good. It's nice. Got some wine. Got a glass of red wine. It's a nice house wine. Karen got the white. Both good house wines. And then I saw this in the window. This is a sweet rice pudding, and you can see they topped it with cinnamon. So that's nice too. That's good. Sometimes you'll get that more creamy, but I like the way they did that too. So this is a place right on one of the main drags here in Campo de Ourique. The inside is really cool, and during lunchtime, this place gets absolutely packed with locals. And that's the thing about Campo de Ourique, because this is more of a residential area. This place doesn't get packed with tourists. So if you're looking to get away from the tourist crush and see what the locals are up to, Campo de Ourique is a good place to come, because there's not really these blockbuster sites and museums and churches and stuff like that. It doesn't exist in this part of Lisbon. But what it has is amazing character and great food, and the museums and other cool places that are here are really neat, and you pretty much get them to yourself. So that's going to wind up this video, but I'll tell you, we had some great food here, and there's a lot more for us to see in Campo de Ourique. There's this amazing cemetery in Lisbon that we have to check out, and some more good food as well. So next week I'll post another video about Campo de Ourique and some of those cool places to go to. But until then, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, of course, if you could. I would definitely appreciate it. Check out the podcast. Check out the website at destinationeatdrink.com. I'm Brent Peterson, and see you down the road.